I've been paying extra back for years, or trying to. I've actually paid a lot more than I should have been doing, really. But it's had no impact whatsoever. I'm one of the lucky mortgage prisoners, I'll be honest with you.
Now, with interest rates rising for the 12th month in a row and reaching their highest level since 2008, we're all likely to be feeling the pinch that little bit more. But people who are locked into high interest rate mortgages will be finding things especially difficult. We've been discussing these mortgage prisoners on the programme regularly over the past few months. In a moment, we're going to speak to Solicitor Olivia Selley, who is from Harcus Parker, who are bringing legal action against a number of mortgage providers. But first, let's speak to David Poyton. He's from Thurnscoe in Doncaster. He's been locked into his mortgage he didn't sign up for since Northern Rock went out of business. Good morning to you, David.
Good morning.
Thank you ever so much for speaking to us this morning about this, because it must be incredibly difficult, because this is a reality that you are living with day in, day out. Just explain to us how you found yourself in this situation.
I had to take out a specialist mortgage back in 2006. We got let down by a rogue builder, and ended up having to take a 100% mortgage and clear some other debts that caused off it. Thinking with the house prices the way they were, we got good advice to say, we'd be in a good position to pay the mortgage off and move to a different rate within months, because I had a good job, etc. Both myself and my wife had good, well-paid jobs. So yeah, for no fault of our own, we ended up taking a mortgage we were advised to do, really. And then obviously the banking crisis hit. I lost my job with Halifax at the time. My wife wasn't working then as well. She also lost her job. So we had to take lower paid jobs, and then we found ourselves in negative equity. And then we were all right. We were managing, and then the mortgage got sold off to whoever, and again and again and again. We've not unable to move. Initially because of affordability checks, and because we were in negative equity from the issue that has from the financial crash. I've come on the outside of that. It's been a long, long road. I'm now a single parent since my wife passed away, leaving me in a house I don't want, and I can't move from for various reasons, mainly because I'm trapped now on affordability as a single parent.
David, I'm so sorry to hear about that. Before we get into the impact this has had on you, tell us a little bit about the figures we're talking about here. What percentage are you paying? How much money have you paid back? I mean, have you even looked into it, or is that just too difficult to do?
Sometimes it is too difficult. I've been paying extra back for years, or trying to. I've actually paid a lot more than I should have been doing, really. But it's had no impact whatsoever. I'm one of the lucky mortgage prisoners, I'll be honest with you, but because not all of my mortgages is interest only. Most mortgage prisoners are on interest only throughout, and my interest only part was for the further advance I took to complete with the work, as I said, from the rogue builder. But even that has a massive impact. It's not a big mortgage in value terms for the house, but monthly it's now becoming unmanageable, because I think with the next rate that was coming in, I'll be on around 9%.
Gosh. So what are you paying every month?
It's around £750 at the minute. It's not a massive amount compared to a lot of other people, but I'm no longer employed like I was before on a good job. I've had to take jobs where I can be flexible, because I've got an autistic child as well, so I have to work from home. So yeah, it's becoming increasingly difficult. Every day is a challenge, really. I've got to watch the pennies. We don't go on holiday or anything like that. There's no real luxuries.
Tell me, I mean, it sounds incredibly stressful, very difficult for you to cope with. And you talked about your wife. I mean, tell us a little bit about your wife, the impact all of this had on her, and indeed you, and you're talking there about your child as well.
Yeah, I mean, we've been separated for quite some time. She suffered from depression when she lost her job with the bank, and with postnatal depression as well. And it got worse and worse and worse. So she lost close family relatives to suicide as well, which didn't help. and we ended up splitting up over money, really, because we were both struggling. Um, then I was left with the house, which was in negative equity. I had no choice; I couldn't sell it. And the job I was doing, I couldn't go bankrupt or anything like that, because I would have lost my job when I was working in the banking industry. So yeah, I was in a real catch-22 situation. And my wife's health deteriorated, and she passed away. We were still married, going through divorce procedures though, but she passed away last year. And my life was about to move on because we're selling the house, because it had come back into into equity. But now my children have had to move in with me, obviously, and I couldn't afford elsewhere on my little salary. So yeah, I'm still stuck with the house. I don't want to be living in, really, for the memories from there as well.
Of course. How are you coping? What impact is it having on you?
I've had severe mental health issues over the years with it. To be open and honest, when I was working for the bank, they were a terrible employer. Sorry. When I reached out to them to say towards the end that I was really, really struggling, the actual manager I approached turned around and said, "You're looking for an excuse for your poor performance." Uh, so when the redundancies came along, I wasn't bothered. I just went and went to a job a bit more flexible. But I ended up having to have a lot of therapy, and if it wasn't for the bank workers charity, it would be brilliant. They sorted out loads of one-to-one therapy for me, which I'm still going through now, again, since the loss of my wife, and my life has turned completely upside down.
I'm so sorry to hear that. I know you mentioned Halifax was the bank you worked for. We will reach out to them and get their response to what you're saying there about the challenges that you faced. I mean, let me bring in Olivia, and David, do stay with us. And I'm really grateful to you. I can't imagine how difficult it is to come on national radio and talk about this, but we're so grateful you do, because so many people always get in touch with us when we cover these stories, because they're so important, because they're often going through the same thing, and it's just support for them to know that they are not alone in this. And Olivia Selley, who is from Harkers Parker, I mean, David is very much not alone, sadly, is he? There are, about 200,000 people who are mortgage prisoners locked into this situation, which is no fault of their own.
Yeah, that's right. We estimate there are around sort of 250,000 potential mortgage prisoners out there. We're currently representing around 7,000 of those who have potential claims against a series of these inactive lenders that David was describing, who took over these mortgages in the wake of the financial crisis, but then didn't or wouldn't or couldn't offer new mortgage products to these customers. And that's why they've been stuck paying these excessive rates ever since, for around 15 years.
Why isn't the government stepping in?
Well, the government has looked at it, and I think the area is incredibly complicated. It's always very complicated, thinking how do we regulate for these sort of slightly nuanced situations. But we think that from our client's perspective, there's a very clear contractual route through these claims. And we say that these lenders, in the way that they've behaved, have actually breached the terms of the mortgage contracts. And so from our point of view, the framework is already there for our clients to seek compensation. And the framework is already there to prevent lenders acting in the way that they have.
So it's about doing that work to compensate people and also make sure people in the future are protected. David, from your point of view, are you angry about this? Are you frustrated? Who do you blame?
I'm angry. I'm frustrated. All encompassed into one. I don't think the due diligence was done by the Chancellor at the time. I think George Osborne, who sold all the mortgages there, and the terms and conditions have not been adhered to. They're just an unknown entity that you have to deal with. I've raised a number of complaints I personally raised with them. They've been incredible. And all you do, they kick the can down the road for weeks. You can't get hold of anyone to speak to. As we've just mentioned, you cannot get a different product from the standard variable rate that they say. 1 minute they say it's not linked to the Bank of England base rate, but it does track the Bank of England base rate. They're full of different stories every time you ring them. And some of the things, I mean, you can check on with the Financial Services Ombudsman. One of my complaints I put in there, they actually wrote to me saying sorry to hear about the death of Mr. David Poyton when I'd registered my wife's death. That's the
Yeah.
incompetency of this company. And that's there on, I raised that with Financial Services Ombudsman. But that's just one example of what they like to deal with. Shocking.
Yeah. I'm so sorry for what you're going through, and the impact it's having on you, and of course, children as well. So listen, thank you so much for speaking to us. I really, really appreciate it. And as I say, it really does help other people to hear that they are not alone in this situation. Thank you, David.
Oh, thank you.
There's David Poyton. He's from Thurnscote in Doncaster. He's been locked into that mortgage, and you just hear there about the anger and the frustration, understandably. This mortgage he took out was in 2006. It's 2023. And yeah, there were difficult twists and turns along the road. He got into negative equity. There were affordability checks that he wasn't able to pass because he had a really well-paid job, and then the financial crash came and he got lower paid work. But, as we're often told, many of us are only a couple of paychecks from being in a really desperate situation. But the fact that he's having to pay best part of 9% on his mortgage when many people are on much, much lower than that, it really is difficult to listen to. If you have been affected by anything you've heard there, you can email feedback@times.radio. We'll suggest some places to get help and advice. We also heard there from Olivia Selley, who is from Harkers Parker, who are bringing a legal action against a number of mortgage providers.